Hello, all you big beautiful brains out there. Today, we're going to talk about the differences between mental illness, mental disability, and mental disorders. Before we get started, take a minute to subscribe to Psy vs. Psy. Help out your friendly neighborhood psychologist while I tell you all about the differences between mental illnesses, mental disorders, and mental disabilities. As someone who teaches psychology, I get questions from students about these terms quite a bit, and it can be really confusing. Out in the real world, people use these terms pretty interchangeably, and often that's not quite right. As scientists, or scientists in training, it's important to try to begin using these different terms correctly, because consistency is critically important when we're looking at things scientifically. We're going to be looking at these U.S. organizations to define these terms, but make sure you check the correct regional authority for where you live. So, let's talk about some more precise definitions of these terms and some of the reasons why they're different from each other. The first term I want to talk about is mental illness. While you hear this one a lot, especially in the news, it's not really used by medical professionals much anymore. Even the official book that lists all kinds of what people call mental illnesses is actually officially called the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. A big part of this is because the word illness implies that all of these conditions are purely biological, or that they all need to be treated and cured. Not only can this be really stigmatizing, it can be incredibly disrespectful to people who might be coping or managing certain issues for the rest of their lives. It's actually really brave to face every day with a mental disorder, and to think of it as an illness or something that needs to be cured can be really disrespectful to that population. A mental disorder, or what used to be called mental illness, is defined by the American Psychological Association as any condition characterized by cognitive and emotional disturbances, abnormal behaviors, impaired functioning, or any combination of those things. The APA also says that mental disorders cannot be accounted for solely by environmental circumstances and may involve physiological, genetic, chemical, social, and other factors. They also list anxiety and depression as being two of the most common mental disorders for which people seek treatment. The American Psychiatric Association defines mental disability as problems with general mental abilities that affect functioning in two areas: intellectual functioning, such as learning, problem solving, or judgment, and adaptive functioning, which are activities of daily life, such as communication and independent living. Mental disability affects about 1% of the population, and of those, about 85% have mild intellectual disabilities. Males are more likely than females to be diagnosed with mental disabilities, but the cause for mental disabilities can come from a variety of genetic factors, and even some complications during pregnancy, and possibly even the environment. Looking in from the outside, it can be tough to see the difference between mental disorders and mental or intellectual disabilities for two big reasons: the way we observe the behavior, and perceptions of decision making. Let's talk about the way we observe behavior first. Oftentimes, behaviors that present with mental disorders and intellectual disabilities could appear similar to someone from the outside. For instance, say you're at the park and you see someone rocking back and forth, yelling incoherently while someone else tries to comfort them. That person could easily be someone with an intellectual disability who is overstimulated by a situation, or they could be someone who has a condition such as PTSD, who is going through a flashback. Behaviorally, to a casual observer, the two conditions might really look the same. What becomes important is the underlying reason for the behavior, and that is why psychologists and medical professionals have so many tests and evaluation procedures to really get to the source of the issue. Let's look at the second big reason people might confuse someone with a mental disorder with someone with an intellectual disability, or vice versa. Like it or not, the decisions that we make are constantly judged by the outside world. People with mental disorders can make decisions that would appear wrong or inappropriate to someone who doesn't understand that disorder. For instance, someone with depression or social anxiety might choose not to go into work because they know they just can't manage to do so on that particular day, and they might be judged as lazy or mentally incompetent for that decision. Conversely, people with an intellectual disability could make a decision based on their own needs that others describe as crazy or mental, just because they don't understand the reasoning behind the decision. Honestly, the more I think about this one, it gets me kind of mad and makes me realize how culpable the judgment of society is on how we treat humans. But if you want to know more about how society impacts how we treat people with disabilities, make sure you watch our video on the social model of disability. Hopefully, this will make things a little clearer about when to use which term. And if you want to know more about psychological terminology, make sure you subscribe to Psy vs. Psy so you can get all of our other videos and you can learn all about the science of psychology. Until next time, keep thinking, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.